Today, I want to take the opportunity to talk about something that had been dominating the headlines for a couple of months, actually, but has been in the news less and less over the last couple of weeks. And it's something we should absolutely not be allowed to be forgotten. And that would be the Jeffrey Epstein files and what is contained in them. As Donald continues his hostile takeover of our nation's capital, continues to deport immigrants in a way that is extra legal and unconstitutional, and tries to reshape our country according to his authoritarian fascistic vision, we have to remember that one of the major reasons he's doing all of these horrific things is to distract us and distract us some more and distract us some more from whatever is contained in the Epstein files. But we're not going to be distracted. We're going to stay laser focused on this issue. And we want to continue to shed as much light on the Epstein scandal and where it stands as possible. It turns out we also might be learning much more about Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell's crimes and whether there were other people involved in their sex trafficking of girls and young women when Virginia Giuffre's memoir is released in October. Giuffre, who died by suicide at the age of 41 this year, was an outspoken accuser of Epstein and Maxwell. Her lawsuit against Maxwell for defamation was settled in her favor in 2017. She also sued Prince Andrew, to whom she claimed she was sex trafficked by Epstein. Andrew also settled the case in Giuffre's favor and made a large donation to her charity. Giuffre's publisher said, quote, "The book will explore her intimate, disturbing, and heartbreaking," unquote, experiences with Epstein and Maxwell, as well as her time, quote, "meeting politicians and CEOs." In addition to having the release of Giuffre's book to look forward to, Donald knows that he is going to be facing a small but vocal contingent of Republicans in the House of Representatives, like James Comer, Republican of Kentucky, who are demanding that the Department of Justice release the Epstein files, which is exactly the opposite of what Donald wants. So, Donald's DOJ is doing everything it can to pretend they're being transparent vis-a-vis the Epstein files, releasing irrelevant bits and pieces to the public, which most of which, by the way, have already been made public, without actually revealing anything. The DOJ released a transcript of Todd Blanche's meeting with Ghislaine Maxwell, but it's clear that the Deputy Attorney General was only looking for yet another way to help Donald cover up his alleged crimes. Because remember, we don't know if Donald committed any crimes with Jeffrey Epstein. What we do know is that his name is mentioned many, many times in the Epstein files, and that is according to his own DOJ. Blanche's other agenda seemed to be undermining the hundreds, if not thousands, of victims of Epstein and Maxwell. Take a look at MSNBC's coverage.
There are multiple instances in this interview in which Todd Blanche attempts to fill in the gaps for Ghislaine Maxwell. There are also moments where her own attorneys attempt to fill in those gaps and sort of direct the questioning. That's not that unusual where you have an attorney, where you have a proffer session with somebody that you're thinking about entering into a cooperation agreement with, for example. What makes this so unusual is not only that Todd Blanche is President Trump's former criminal defense lawyer, but that Ghislaine Maxwell herself has long ago been convicted and is on a last-ditch appeal to the Supreme Court, and barring that, is sort of auditioning for a pardon. That's what makes this so unusual.
All of this is unusual, and it's quite frankly grotesque. I don't think there is any power on earth that would get me to sit in a room with Ghislaine Maxwell. So, what is it about Todd Blanche that not only makes him willing to sit in a room with that vile criminal, that sex trafficker of girls and young women, that abuser of girls and young women, but to make it clear to her that he is on her side and he wants to help her in exchange for her exoneration of Donald Trump? As Andy Borowitz put it in a headline, Ghislaine Maxwell becomes only person in America who has not seen Donald act inappropriately. Indeed, We're supposed to believe a word that comes out of this woman's mouth when it's obvious that both the DOJ and Ghislaine Maxwell have deeply corrupt motives here. She wants a pardon, and they want all of this to go away. However, bit of advice, guys, if Ghislaine Maxwell is one of your character references, you're doing it really, really wrong. There's no interest in justice here. All of this is just part of a cover-up, which has to make us wonder, and we need to be asking this out loud every single day, what exactly is in the Epstein files relating to Donald Trump? So luckily, none of this is going away because we're not letting it go, but also because, as I mentioned before, when Congress returns to session, there are a lot of people in Congress, mostly Democrats, but even some Republicans, who are going to place a lot of scrutiny on Donald's mishandling of this whole Epstein debacle, a debacle of his own making. Republicans and Democrats alike have signaled that the moment Congress returns, Epstein will be at the top of their list. In another desperate attempt to appease Donald's base, he and the DOJ released a mere 3% of the files related to Epstein to the House Oversight Committee. As it turns out, however, the overwhelming majority of what the DOJ sent over is already public knowledge and had already been released. According to Democratic Representative from California, Robert Garcia, the only new information in this current release, he told the New York Times, was Customs and Border Protection's log of flight locations of Epstein's plane between the years 2000 and 2014, as well as some forms consistent with re-entry back to the U.S. Democratic Representative Ro Khanna, also of California, who is a member of the Oversight Committee, said over the weekend that he planned to press ahead with the measure to force, quote, the full release, unquote, of the files. Khanna said, quote, less than 1% of files have been released. DOJ is stonewalling. The survivors deserve justice and the public deserves transparency, unquote. Well, justice and transparency are two things that our current Department of Justice no longer believes in. Luckily, Congress, with the exception of some Republican loyalists, seems to be taking this pretty seriously. Why? Well, because the base is taking it seriously. Republican Representative Thomas Massie plans to go full throttle at the Epstein scandal once Congress is back in session. One of the first things on his agenda is to interview Alex Acosta, the man who originally let Epstein off in Florida and who then went on to work for Donald during the first Trump administration. House Oversight Chair James Comer announced that Acosta, who led the Labor Department from 2017 to 2019, has agreed to sit for a transcribed interview with the committee on September 19th. Additionally, Politico reports that Comer said Monday that his panel is probing the federal government's possible mishandling of the Epstein case and has issued a subpoena to the Epstein estate, quote, for documents and communications in possession, custody, or control in unredacted form, unquote. These people are playing hardball. Republican representatives in Congress are actually playing hardball against the wishes of Donald and the Trump regime. It looks as though subpoenas are already flying as Congress is getting ready to return to DC. Until that happens, though, we are not going to let up. We are going to continue to remind people what is going on or not vis-a-vis the Trump regime's interference with the release of the Epstein files. We are going to continue to remind people that after years of promising to release the files and uncover a globalist conspiracy that would implicate leaders at the top of the Democratic Party, Donald has gone back on his word and is doing everything in his power to make sure these files are never released. We don't know why exactly, but again, important to repeat as often as humanly possible, Donald's name, according to his own DOJ, occurs multiple times in the Epstein files. We just want to know why. please take a second and like and share this video. It'd be awesome if you could subscribe to the channel. If you're listening to us in podcast form, please follow us and give the show a 5-star rating because it really does help other people find our content. Thanks.